So today's class will be about the correlation method and regression method for measurement of risk. In the previous class, we discussed how to calculate the probable returns, the expected returns, and then calculate the variance and standard deviation. We also discussed that risk is of two types. The systematic risk as well as unsystematic risk are two elements of total risk. So standard deviation and variance will give you the total risk involved in an investment, whereas to measure systematic risk, beta is used. Systematic risk is that risk which is beyond the control of the businessman and that risk which is caused due to external factors. So to measure the systematic risk, beta value need to be calculated. To calculate the beta value, we have two methods, the correlation method as well as the regression method. So you're already familiar with the calculation of the expected return and the standard deviation. We'll go through one such problem to just refresh our memory, and then we'll learn correlation and regression method. So looking into this question, see, an investor has analyzed a share for a 1-year holding period. The share is currently selling for rupees 43 but pays no dividends. And there is a 50-50 chance that the share will sell for either rupees 55 or rupees 60 by the year end. What is the expected return and risk if 250 shares are acquired with 80% borrowed funds? Assume the cost of borrowed funds to be 12%. Ignore commissions and taxes. So this is the question in front of us. We have to calculate what is the return from the, if we are to purchase 250 shares, what is the expected return, and also what will be the how much will we have to pay for the borrowed funds if the borrowed funds is 12%. Okay, so let's see. Calculation of probable returns. The price at the end of the year is given. So we have to use the formula to calculate the percentage of probable returns when the actual price is given in the question. That is, the percentage is not given, but the price is given. Then we'll have to calculate the percentage. So we already know the formula for doing that. It is P1 minus P0 divided by P0 into 100. So there is no dividend in this question. They are mentioning that no dividend is being paid. So we need not bother about the dividend value, but we have to calculate the percentage, the probable percentage. If the dividend was given, we would have calculated by the forecasted dividend plus the end of the year price divided by the initial investment, the whole minus 1. We could have applied that formula, but in this case, the dividend is not there. So we'll just calculate P1 minus P0 divided by P0 into 100. So the P1 is the value at the end of the year, the expected values at the end of the year. So the expected price is 55 and 60, which is given in the first column. The second column is nothing but the difference between the end year price and the beginning year price. So P1 minus P0 is 55 minus 43, which will give you 12, and 60 minus 43, which will give you 17. So the second column is also ready. Now we need to calculate P1 minus P0 divided by P0. So the second column item should be divided by P0, which is the price at the beginning, that is 43. So 12 divided by 43 into 100 will give you 27.91, and 17 divided by 43 into 100 will give you 39.53. So we got the percentages. Now we can calculate the expected return. Expected return is nothing but the total of the probable returns multiplied by the probability. So the probability return is 27.91, 39.53. Probability, they said in the question that there's a 50-50 chance that the share will sell for either 55 or 60. So we can calculate the probability as 0.50, 0.50. That is the 50-50 chance, equal chance. So 0.50, 0.50. Now we have to multiply the probable return with the probability. 27.91 into 0.50 will give you 13.955. 39.53 into 0.50 will give you 19.765. Now when we total the third column items, we will get the expected return or the X bar, which is 33.72. Okay, so I hope this much is clear. So from the question, we have calculated the expected return, which is the first part of the question. What is the expected return that we have calculated? Now we have to move on to the second part, and risk if 250 shares are acquired with 80% borrowed funds. To calculate that, we need to find out the standard deviation or the total risk involved in that investment. To calculate the total risk, we are going to calculate the variance, and from that the standard deviation will be determined. So the probable returns as already calculated is 27.91 and 39.53. Probability is 0.5, 0.5. Now we have to find the deviation from the expected return. What is the deviation? That is the next one. So we already calculated the expected return as 33.72. So the deviation of the probable return from the expected return need to be calculated. So 33.72 is to be deducted from 27.91 and 39.53, which will give you minus 581 and positive 581. That is, the expected return of 33.72 need to be deducted from the probable returns 27.91 and 39.53, which will give you the answers in the third column, negative 5.81 and positive 5.81. Now to remove the negative and positive signs, we will be squaring the items in the third column, that is deviation squared, which will give you 33.76. 5.81 into 5.81 will give you 33.76. Now the squared deviation need to be multiplied with the probability, which is given in the second column. So 33.76 into 0.50 will give you 16.88, which is given in the last column of the answer, 16.88. Now total these items together to find out the variance or the sigma square, which is 33.76. To calculate the standard deviation, we'll take the root of variance, which will give you 5.81. So now we know the risk involved or the total risk involved in the investment is 5% or 5.81. We calculated the return as well as the risk involved. Now we can calculate the second part of the question. What is the risk if 250 shares are acquired with 80% borrowed funds? So you're borrowing 80% of the funds for making the investment and you're purchasing 250 shares. So if you're going to purchase 250 shares right now, the price is given as rupees 43. So what is the risk involved? See, you're investing in 250 shares. If you're going to purchase it for rupees 43, then the total amount that you'll have to invest is 250 into 43, which is 10,750. Now this 10 out of this 10,750, 80% of the funds is borrowed. So what is the amount of borrowed funds that you have invested? So 10,750 into 80 by 100 will give you 8,600. So you're purchasing the shares for 10,750, but you have borrowed 8,600 from someone else to make the investment. So we have calculated that much. Now, what is the expected return from the 250 shares? We have already calculated the expected return by multiplying the probable return with the probability and calculating the total. The total came up to rupees 33, sorry, the percentage 33.72. So 10,750, when you're investing 10,750 in 250 shares, you are expecting a 33.72% return from it. So what is the return that you expect out of this investment? 10,750 into 33.72 divided by 100 will give you 3,624.90. Now, we are getting a return of 3,624, but We cannot take all the return for ourselves. We have to pay off the interest for the borrowed funds. We have borrowed 80% of funds. We have borrowed 8,600. So in the question, they have given that for the borrowed funds, you have a cost of 12%. That is the interest to be paid for the borrowed funds is at 12%. So we have to set aside the interest amount and then only take the remaining returns for ourselves. So 8,600 into 12% is 1,032. So when you get a return of 3,624, you have to keep aside for, or you have to pay interest for 1,032. So the remaining return for the investment is 2,592.90 is your actual return from that investment. Now, what is the risk involved? We have calculated the risk percentage as 5.81. So when you're making an investment of 10,750, you have a risk of 5.81 percentage. So 10,750 into 5.81 divided by 100, that is 624.58. There is a chance that you might suffer a loss of up to rupees 624. That is what is understood from the value that is calculated. So this is what we learned in the previous class, how to calculate the expected return and the standard deviation. The return and the risk can be calculated. Now this is with regard to the total risk involved in an investment. We need to get a more appropriate result, we have to calculate the systematic risk, which is the uncontrollable risk. To calculate the systematic risk, we need to identify the beta value. Now, the beta value can be calculated using two statistical methods. The first one is correlation method and the second one is regression method. So how do we calculate the correlation method? Under the correlation method, we are going to identify the relationship between the individual stock price as well as the market index price. So what is the relation between these two will be analyzed under the correlation method. Under the correlation method, the beta value is calculated using the formula beta I is equal to RFIM into sigma I into sigma M divided by variance of the market or sigma square of M, where RIM is correlation coefficient between the returns of stock I and the returns of market index. Sigma I is standard deviation of returns of stock I. Sigma M is standard deviation of returns of the market index. And variance of the market returns is used as the denominator. Now to calculate the correlation, that is a formula. To calculate the correlation value, that is the first part, RIM. To calculate the correlation, the formula is, correlation coefficient, the formula is R is equal to n of sigma xy minus sigma x into sigma y divided by root of n sigma x square minus sigma x the whole square into root of n sigma y square minus sigma y the whole square. So we look into a problem to understand that formula better. Example 5 asks to calculate the beta value. See, monthly return data in percentage are presented below for ITC stock and BSE National Index for a 12-month period. Calculate beta of ITC stock. When the question is to calculate a beta, it is always better to utilize the correlation formula. If the question is to calculate the beta and the alpha value, always go for regression method. So we are going to apply the correlation method to calculate the beta value. Now, see the ITC stock, the individual stock values is given and the market index values are given. The market index is a independent value and the stock percentages are the dependent variables. So when you're calculating in the formula, always state the dependent variable values as the y variable and the independent values as the x variable. So going to the formula for calculation of correlation coefficient is calculated using this formula. R is equal to n of sigma xy minus sigma x into sigma y divided by root of n sigma x square minus sigma x the whole square into root of n sigma y square minus sigma y the whole square. So I said we'll be calculating the independent variable as the x value. Here the independent variable is the market index value that is denoted as RM. The dependent variable is the values of the individual security which is denoted as RIY, and small n denotes the number of items. So for calculation of correlation coefficient, we have drawn a table in which there are 5 columns. The first one is the values of the individual security as given in the question. The second one is the values of the market index as given in the question. We have calculated the totals of the first column and the second column. The total of the first column will give you the sigma y value, and the total of the second column will give you the sigma x value. Now we have to calculate the sigma y square to use in the formula. To calculate the sigma y square, we have squared all the values in the first column. 9.543 square will give you 88.92. Second column is 0. Third column is 4.31 square will give you 18.58. Likewise, you have squared all the values, calculated the total, which will give you the sigma y square. Sigma y square. Now, the fourth column is to calculate the sigma x square. That is, the second column items are all squared to calculate the fourth column item. 7.41 into 7.41 will give you 54.91. 5.33 into 5.33 will give you 28.41. Likewise, all the items in the second column have been squared, and the total has been calculated as 1432.75, which is sigma x square. Now xy values is to be calculated. So the first and second column items are multiplied to calculate the fifth column. 9.43 into 7.41, 0 into 5.33, 4.31 into 7.35, and then the total is calculated to arrive at the total value sigma xy, which is 2160.46. You are not using the sigma xy anywhere, but we have just calculated it. So now we can apply the formula. R is equal to N. N is 12. That is, there are 12 items in this question. So we are going to calculate N as 12. 12 into sigma xy. Oh, sorry. That is where the last column's total is taken. So 2160.49 is calculated there. Sigma xy minus sigma x. That is the second column's total, which is 49.82, into sigma y, which is the first column's total, that is 111.69, divided by n again is 12. So 12 into sigma x squared, that is the fourth column's total, 1432.75, minus sigma x the whole square, that is the second column's total square, 49.82 the whole square, into root of 12, that is n, into sigma y square, which is your third column's total, 3724.97, minus sigma y the whole square, the first column square, 111.69 the whole square. Now when you calculate all this, you will get the R value or the correlation coefficient, which is 0.935. So we have calculated the R of IM, that is a correlation coefficient between the individual security and the market index. Now to calculate the beta value, the beta value is RIM into sigma E into sigma M divided by variance of the market index. So we have to calculate the standard deviation of ITC stock as well as BSE index. So moving on to the calculation of the variance. In this question, the variance has been calculated using the formula. Variance is equal to n of sigma x square minus sigma x the whole square divided by n square. And the root of that will give you the standard deviation. So standard deviation of ITC returns need to be calculated first. For that, we have to apply the formula. So standard deviation of the individual index or ITC returns is n. N is the number of items in the question, which is 12 into sigma x square as already calculated in the question. Sigma x square will give you, for ITC, the value is 3724.97. So we'll be calculating that value, 3724.97 minus. See here, the x value is taken as the original data. That is, you will, when you're calculating the ITC returns, you will take the values of the y square and the sigma y. And when you're calculating the BSC index, you will take the values of the x square and sigma x. So the x is just the original data that is required. So in this case, 3724.97 minus sigma y the whole square. Sigma y is 111.69. So sigma y is 111.69 the whole square divided by n square, which is 12 into 12. Now when we calculate the root of that, we'll get the standard deviation of ITC returns. Now we'll calculate the variance and standard deviation of the BSC index returns. Again, the values are taken. 12 into sigma x square. Sigma x square. Where is x square? That is x square. Sigma x square is 1432.75 minus sigma x the whole square. The sigma x value is 49.82. We have taken the square of that and then multiplied by the n square, that is 12 into 12. We have calculated that, found then to calculate the variance, and we have found the root to determine the standard deviation. So standard deviation of BSC index return is 10.11. Now we can calculate the beta value. We have calculated all the variables required. R of IM has already been calculated as 0.935, the R value 0.935 into standard deviation value of ITC returns, that is 14.96, into standard deviation value of the market index, which is 10.11, divided by the variance of the market index. The variance of the market index is 102.16. So you will get the beta value as 1.384. We already discussed that the beta value is indicates the average risk. So a stock with beta less than 1 would have below average risk, and a stock with more than 1, when the beta value is more than 1, it will denote a higher level of risk. So this security has a high level of risk because it has 1.38 beta value. It is more than 1. So we have calculated the correlation method, beta value, using the correlation method. Next is the regression method. With the data given in example 5, calculate the beta of ITC stock using the regression model. So regression model studies the unit change in the dependent variable to a change in the independent variable. See, when there's a unit change in the independent variable, that is a market index, what is the percentage of change that occurs in the dependent variable, which is the individual stock or ITC stock's price. So that is what we study under the regression model. So using the previous question itself, we are going to calculate the regression model. So they said that using the table which we have already prepared, all these values are already available. The sigma xy, sigma x, sigma y, sigma x square, and n values are already been calculated in the previous question. We are going to use that to do the regression model. Now the regression model will calculate a beta value and an alpha value. In correlation method, you only require to calculate the beta value, but in regression method, you'll be calculating the beta value and the alpha value. So to calculate the expected returns, see, so the expected return can be calculated using alpha plus beta into Rm. Alpha is nothing but the value that is of the dependent variable, even when the independent variable has 0 value. That is, even if there is no change in the independent variable, that your security is going to give you this much of return. That is known as the alpha value. Now the beta value is the change in the dependent variable in response to unit change in the independent variable. When there is a slight change in your independent variables value, what is the change that is going to come in the dependent variables value? That is denoted in beta. Then RM is the return of the market index. That is what you need to calculate, the RI, which is the return of the individual security. So to calculate the beta value, we will be applying the formula n of sigma xy minus sigma x into sigma y divided by n sigma x square minus sigma x the whole square. Using that formula and using the values which have already been calculated, we are going to calculate the beta value, and the beta value came to percentage 1.384. That is the beta value for the question. Now we need to calculate the alpha value. The alpha value is y bar minus beta into x bar. So to calculate the y bar, we have calculated the sigma y divided by the total of the items in the y column, that is 111.69 divided by number of items, which is 12, which will give you 9.31. X bar is sigma x by n, which is 49.82 divided by 12, which will give you 4.15. So you have already calculated the y bar and the x bar. And the beta value has also been determined. Now y bar minus beta into x bar will give you the alpha value, and we have determined the alpha value as 3.57. Once the beta value and alpha value has been calculated, we can determine the expected return. But in the question, you have only been asked to calculate the beta value using the regression model. So we have already calculated that. The beta value and alpha value has been calculated. The next question would be how to determine the expected return after calculating the alpha and the beta values. See, in a question, when you are asked to calculate the alpha and beta values, know that you are supposed to use a regression method. See the last question. Example 7. Monthly return data in percent for ONGC stock and the NSE index for 12-month period are presented below. So the small n value is 12 because there are 12 items. The market index is NSE index. So the market index is the independent variable. So the X variable will be that. Now ONGC stock is the individual stock variable. So that will be taken as the dependent variable, that is y. Now, suppose NSE index, calculate alpha and beta for NGC stock. Suppose NSE index is expected to move up by 15% next month. How much return would you expect from ONGC? Okay. So the question, we are calculating ONGC returns y. NSE has been taken as x. So we are calculating the sigma x, sigma y. Then we are squaring the values in the second column to calculate the sigma x square. Then we are multiplying the first and second columns to get the xy and getting the total to calculate the sigma xy. Now to calculate the beta, the formula is n of sigma xy minus sigma x into sigma y divided by n into sigma x square minus sigma x the whole square. Applying all the values, we will get the beta value. That is n is 12, sigma xy is 107.55 minus sigma x is 12.72 into sigma y, which is 25.32, divided by 12 into sigma x square, that is 12 into 72.82 minus sigma x the whole square, that is 12.72 the whole square. Now when we calculate, we'll get the beta value as 1.359. Next is to calculate the alpha value. Alpha value is the value that you get when there is no change in the market index. Y bar minus beta of x bar. So y bar is, to calculate the y bar, you have to calculate the sigma y by 12, that is 25.32 divided by 12 minus the beta value we have already calculated as 1.359. X bar, to calculate the x bar, sigma x by n, which is 12.72 divided by 12. So we'll get the value of the alpha as 0.67. Now the second part of the question. The expected return from ONGC stock when NSE index moves up by 15% can be calculated from the regression equation, which is RI is equal to alpha value, which is 0.67, plus beta value, which is 1.359 into R of M. That is the RM is the market index. So we have given in the question that the market index price moved up by 15%. So RM will be substituted with 15, and when we substitute 15 in the equation, we'll get 21.055. So when there is a change in the NSE index by 15%, the expected return will be 21% or 21.055% is the expected return in that case. So that is the question.